Welcome back to the Talk Shop in Studio 255. I'm Eric Henderson. This morning's broadcast brought to you in part by Chano's Village. Chano's Village, buying the farm annually at the Albany County 4-H Junior Livestock Sale, and others supporting that endeavor this past Saturday. We'll get into credit and acknowledgement of many of those youth supporters as we go through this morning's broadcast. Want to let people digest a little bit. How are you doing with your utility bill? Well, many people are discussing the surface water management program. Now, this program was adopted on third reading December 3rd, 2024, by then members of City Council, Mayor Brian Harrington, Vice Mayor Sharon Cumby, Micah Richardson, Aaron O'Doherty, Jane Pierce, and Pat Gabriel. Each of them voted for the adoption of this utility fund as allowed by Wyoming statute. Now, voting against this initiative were Joe Shumway, Andy Somerville, and Brandon Newman. Now, if you look back to the time, December 3rd, we had just finished about a month ago the November general elections. So an inbound city council group of 4 individuals would come into position in January of 2025, just earlier this year. Those were Jim Freed, William Bowling, Melanie Vigil, and forgive me, I'm escaping, Matt Lockhart. Okay, those 4 individuals literally had nothing to do with the surface water management program last year when it was adopted. However, through 7 months of operations, those 4 individuals join the existing 5 remaining city council members from the 2024 delegation representing the city of Laramie. Now, in this matter, I bring this up. What's important? Well, there was a third reading on December 3rd. That's how it goes. You have, in due process, you have the first reading, second reading, third reading, and you have multiple steps by which you can get involved. Not unlike tomorrow night. Tomorrow night at City Council, 406 Ivinson Avenue, there'll be an opportunity. Thank you, caller. We'll get back to you in a moment. The opportunity to be involved, to give your public comment, to give your input, share your concern, share your gratefulness, should it be for the surface water management program or any endeavor of interest and germane to the city of Laramie operations. Now, the surface water management program was adopted 6-3, 6 for, 3 against, but it was a sunset vote. Imagine if the 4 inbound city council members were to vote 2-2. They were to split. Balanced inbound, fresh ideas, fresh voices, fresh thoughts, fresh mindset, but they split just for odds sake, right? Well, a 2-2 new councilor vote added to the remaining votes of Brian Harrington, Jane Pierce, and Pat Gabriel not continuing in the current 2025 council roster. A 2-2 vote would change potentially the surface water management program decision to a 5-4 fail. Wouldn't have even had it. Might not have even had it. Now, on December 3rd, some important discussion was had. Former mayor and current council member Joe Shumway indicated in 150 years, Laramie has not known a surface drainage fee. It hasn't been charged for surface drainage. He asks city staff, what is the foundation of us voting on this in council versus the electorate, the voters, deciding on this utility fund? Now, that doesn't seem to be a complex question, but Shumway admitted missing the second reading, but on third reading he asked this question. And as he did so, here's what's extremely interesting to me. Almost immediately, Pat Gabriel interjects that, and this is all available on YouTube, the City of Laramie, live streaming, December 3rd, 2024. You want to look for that particular one. And maybe 50 minutes in, or various times, it's a really dense set of actions that went on. I think it was item 15 on that evening. But suffice it to say, Shumway asks a really good question. What legitimates us voting for this on council versus what's the legal justification for us voting versus the voters voting on funding a utility fee tax? Therein lies an important piece in and of itself. On December 3rd, council member Micah Richardson referred to this surface water management program as a tax. Later, everyone has adjusted their language, and it's no longer a tax, it's a fee. Well, Wyoming Statute 1610-105, Section E, lays out that you can adopt a utility fund, but 1610-105 Section E stipulates lines out exactly how it needs to be funded. Now, obviously there's a good question on the floor. Well, on December 3rd, that question, after Pat Gabriel interjects that, that'd probably be a specific purpose tax, was his answer added to offer to respond to Shumway in his question. Erin O'Doherty interjects that it takes courage, and she quotes, I believe, a Janet or June Taylor, and she talks about at a point in history that both her and Shumway witnessed Taylor speaking and interjecting that it takes courage to serve on city council, and that through courage we should vote on this and take the responsibility as elected officials, loosely paraphrased, and vote. Now, I'm gonna say this. The talk shop is open to each and every individual, regardless of your stance, position, topic. You're always welcome. The whole mission of the talk shop and this work that I do on Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., and other times by arrangement, is to give a voice, that no one goes without a voice. And if you would like to hear your voice, make your voice heard, hear your voice, join me. Simply join me. RadioWorks@mail.com. That's RadioWorks@mail.com. Or phone 307-460-3087. And we do this program with the fantastic support of businesses in town like Laramie Range Ford, Perkins Restaurant and Bakery, the UPS Store, and H&R Block. Just a few of the businesses that come together and make this endeavor possible. Shumway on December 3rd continued, "What justifies this?" Well, after O'Doherty's comment about courage and so forth, and through the intermixing and dialogue and discussion, Janine Jordan, city manager, defers the legal question, but does affirm Pat Gabriel, Councilman Gabriel's comment about a specific purpose tax. And that essentially is commonly referred to as a penny tax. Everybody pays it. When you pay sales tax, we all pay that and pay into that. So it's a decent source when you believe that the endeavor needed or desired is something that all in a community will benefit from. Just philosophically, that's a fundamental. Now, if you believe property owners are the only ones who should pay for a service in a community, then you might rather support a tax that only affects property owners. And that might be something like was voted by all voters for I think it was a 16% increase to fund the Laramie High School being built in the new location. Now, back with this response from Janine Jordan, city manager, on December 3rd, she refers the legal question to the city attorney, Bob Southard, and she continues on to apologize for overlooking the opportunity for this particular surface water management program to be perhaps voted on by the community. And she mentions she thought that there was an $80 million threshold that probably, in her mind, she couldn't recall it being greater than that. Now, the target for the surface water management program, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere north of 130 million. Now, 130 million, 80 million is going to be a great start on anything. And one of the powerful things is you, the voter, decide. The fifth penny goes right in front of you. It's a specific purpose tax, and the utility program is a specific program, and it could have very cleanly been earmarked for discussion and put to the electorate. But the city of Laramie recommends moving forward, and without going past Bob Southard's response, on the night of December 3rd, Bob Southard, city attorney for the city of Laramie, he loosely paraphrased, says, "It's been a while since I reviewed this, since I read it all." Now, this is third reading on an initiative that has been worked on for years, according to council members. And it's on third reading, so it's been on the agenda at least 3 weeks. But Bob Southard on December 3rd is not prepared to give a direct answer to Councilman Shumway or his 8 peers. All right. That's the setting. We have a surface water management program on the floor, and Brian Harrington calls for public comment and discussion amidst council continues but closes up, and they take a vote. 6-3, the result. 6-4, 3 against. Now, the immediate item following this is that we, the city, need somebody to do this program. So there's an initiative to, the next agenda item, like 16 on that night's agenda, is to select an engineering technician, and that engineering technician will be designated to do this. Now, this is one position on that particular night, but some reports in the community indicate that 4 positions have been created for this initiative. Well, we have or we haven't done anything but adopt it and indicate that we're going to begin July 1, 2025 with the program. So we've got in item 15 the adoption of a utility fund, and we've got in item 16 we've got an engineer technician position approved in the city of Laramie. We have government expansion. We have very important, it's an important topic, but as you may believe, maybe the city has other priorities. What priorities are most important to you? Might you let us know on the Talk Shop, radioworks@mail.com, your opportunity to weigh in, or on social media, the Talk Shop, right here in Laramie. Now, we've got this conversation that comes about, and like many topics in the community, not everybody weighs in. Not everybody pays so close attention. Some people believe that when they vote somebody in, well, they're trusting them to represent them. Well, I don't make every meeting, but in making most of the meetings, there's a lot of questions that get asked, but there are even more that don't get asked. And if you don't weigh in, if you don't keep your finger on the pulse of the city of Laramie, some things can happen and they might surprise you. Well, the surface water management program certainly surprised many people, especially businesses. One such business in Laramie had been around for decades. And this was the business of Pat Rinker. Pat Rinker operated Rinker's Auto Salvage. I don't know exactly how long Pat ran that, but suffice it to say, he sold it, and I believe Arvin Martinez, current owner, spoke on the Fifth Tuesday evening about his surface water management program bill on his utility bill for July being an amount that would amount to like $9,600 annually. Now, the rate currently is set at $1.67 per 500 square foot of, what do they call it, impervious surface area. And there's all kinds of discussion on impervious surface area that in 7 months was not done to the benefit, flawlessly to the benefit of citizens in Laramie. That's right. You were left to search and locate an appeal form. Yeah, we're not going to give the benefit of the doubt to you citizens in Laramie. We're going to go aggressive, and we're going to essentially impose the biggest amount we could. I have not seen one example of a preference given to property owners through the surface water management program assessments. I have listened to people who invested in retaining ponds, which are to control flooding. Now, they had to, in order to build their project and proceed with it, in order to get approval, they were required, it was recommended, and in some cases required, that they build these retention ponds at their expense. And in doing so, you'll not only pay for that retention pond and all of its engineering and building, but you now are going to get taxed on that impervious surface area, which is specific to the flood area. Not even this example was given the benefit of the doubt to the citizens by city staff or city council. I think this is a pure example of no accountability in our community. Our elected representatives voted 6-3, and essentially they empowered the city staff to move right on forward with this July 1st initiative of this year, adding probably on average of $10 per residence in the city of Laramie, probably $10 a tax parcel and property parcel, and that, I think when I checked with the Albany County Assessor's Office, there are more than 10,000 parcels in the city of Laramie. This is a lot of revenue. And it's not specifically delineated exactly what projects, what priorities are necessarily going to be in there. And even if they are mentioned, there's still a lot of room for city staff and city council discretion on where those monies might go. How do you feel about this, Laramie? How do you feel about being a citizen in this community where even retention ponds, specifically designed to relieve flooding concerns, are taxed in this fashion? It's like double tax. We made you pay up front, and now we're going to make you pay to perpetuity. I don't know that that's the spirit of living in Wyoming. How do you feel? How do you feel? Let us know. And by all means, tomorrow night in the 6 o'clock hour, you don't want to be late. Make your way to 406 Ivinson Avenue and be a part of the discussion. Let's talk, let's listen, let's learn. This is the Talk Shop in Studio 255 at the Laramie Plains Civic Center. I'm Eric Henderson. I want to thank Pole Mountain Pharmacy, dedicated to the health and wellness of Southeast Wyoming, from their location at 4th and Harney, for their support of this program, along with Windmill Hill Greenhouse, 4109 Fort Sanders Road in Laramie, with perennials, annuals, and more products available, with the staff led by Benny Benson, longtime resident of the Laramie area, and gotta love that friendly expertise that comes at 4109 Fort Sanders Road, Windmill Hill Greenhouse. Stop by and tell them the Talk Shop appreciates your support. We're gonna move on to one other matter. The Yow Hunting Camp for ladies and kids aged 12 to 18 years old will be at Snowy Mountain Lodge. Snowy Mountain Lodge this August, later this month, August 22nd to the 24th, 3 days for ladies and kids aged 12 to 18 years old. Come join the Mountain of Wyoming, Snowy Mountain Lodge's location, for this incredible opportunity to learn the skills you need to be safe and successful in the outdoors. And they have more than 20 classes taught by incredible instructors with the expertise, and all while you gain knowledge, valuable knowledge. You'll be enjoying delicious food, exciting prizes, and lifelong friendships. Stay in the Snowy Mountain Lodge facilities and enjoy this. You can find more information available from Candy Yow, 541-4103-193. That's 541-410-3193. We're going to have this information available on the Talk Shop social media pages, And we'll be covering more about Yow Hunting Camp with two individuals tomorrow morning. The 8 o'clock hour, we will have in Studio 255 guests. That's right, we'll have Yow Hunting Camp experienced guests in our studios. Going to find out more information. Got a few questions to ask? Get them to us. We want to make sure we get all the right questions asked and answered. There's reservations for the camp and lodging. There's contacts, and you can get those at the Talk Shop. We appreciate you listening to the Talk Shop here in this Monday, August 4th. So back to the surface water management program. What was the impact for you like? I have neighbors that are retirees, fixed incomes. Does the surface water management program, so aggressive and so powerfully heavy-handed, does that impose something that makes Laramie more livable, more affordable? No, it absolutely does the exact opposite. It doesn't make it easier to afford owning or renting property in our community. Where's the thoughtfulness in this? Well, flooding is terrible. We have areas that flood. But this problem didn't just rise in the last year. No, not even in the last 20 years. Over 150 years, Laramie has grown. And many areas, like in West Laramie, platted in the 1800s, lots were built for small homes. They weren't built to go from maybe four people in a home, living in a home, maybe 12 full family. They weren't built to have 6 duplexes located on what was formerly one home. We're overbuilding. The City of Laramie City Council have endorsed city staff recommendations to allow overbuilding. My contention is they are allowing to have this overbuilt situation and scenario, putting additional stress on, in the case of 260 North Pine Street, four city block drains, 4 drains on this city section, this city lot at the corner of Fremont Pine and Cedar Street. This encasement. Now, it's done deal. Foundation's been poured. It's been allowed. But enter now a surface water drainage program, where when expressed concerns were made in City Council about the fear of overbuilding and the what happens, when you increase the watershed, you increase the potential for flooding. The city staff have recommended this very problem to grow. Their position, undoubtedly, to respond with infill opportunities in our city, new developments to provide increased housing, increased affordable housing. Affordable housing always comes up, right? But how affordable is it? We're not talking about $500 a bedroom rents anymore. And dense housing is part of the 3% housing preference per City of Laramie studies done. I think like 146 respondents were surveyed on the types of housing they wanted. Well, the most preferential is what used to be called single family. You know, there's a finished upstairs, maybe an unfinished basement, but a single family might live there. Now, a single family, you probably not going to be more than 10 or 12 people. In the case of 260 North Pine Street, you go from a density of, say, 12 people to 6 duplexes with all the bedrooms, maybe an average of 2 people per bedroom. That's 48, density of 48. Now, albeit back in 2021, October, the developers and the city planners were suggesting a zoning change that would allow up to 83 density. There were height requirements and so forth, so on and so forth. But our city planning department are recommending initiatives which inherently support this new tax coming about. It seems like a concerted effort to get government growth, increased size of Laramie. We haven't seen increased growth in Laramie relative to the city staffing growth at the same parallel. We haven't seen it at the same pace. City planning in 2021 comprised of Derek Taney and Matthew Cox, city planner and assistant city planner. Now, these are all staff members who, undoubtedly, they have a higher level of expertise in their field than perhaps you or I do. But we should not be demeaned by any of our city council members or city staff who are this professional guard for our community interests by giving our input, by sharing our concerns. And it's more than courage that should be considered when not even responding to a very important question of Joe Shumway's on December 3rd. Should have been tabled. This matter should have been tabled. But they might not have had the vote to pass this. Led by Brian Harrington, mayor at the time, Vice Mayor Sharon Cumby, now mayor of Laramie, Micah Richardson, formerly a council member, now vice mayor of Laramie City Council, Aaron O'Doherty, at the time Jane Pierce, and Pat Gabriel. We were swept, the city of Laramie swept into a flood of new expense to live here. And surface water, flooding, they're important issues. But as Joe Shumway said, we need perhaps to consider, in his estimation, streets, parking existed as 2 items of greater preference to deal with than immediately on storage, drainage program. Now, that surface water management program. You ever notice when something is really long, it can't be simple, can it? What's going on? Have you talked to your city council member? Reach out. If you want to get a hold of all of city council, their email address is council@cityoflaramie.org. I encourage you to get your comments in. Get them in today, and allow your city council members to, let them print it out. Let them digest what you got. Write and then go to the podium. Speak your 3 minutes. You'll undoubtedly get 3 minutes. The room probably will be maxed out. I mean, there's an overflow room. You can participate by Zoom, and there's a number of ways to get involved. On the agenda from this past Friday, we'll go up with that City Council agenda preview in the 8 o'clock hour with Brett Glass. And we appreciate Brett Glass in his in his coverage of that on a regular basis for us here at the Talk Shop. And we do it to keep you informed, to keep you aware. We give you some personal opinions on occasion, but we endeavor that you be aware and you have opportunity to participate in as full of fashion as possible with your city governance. I don't care for the fact that we implemented a flawed system. I don't care that we violated Wyoming Statute 1610-105, Section E, that calls for this vote of funding the utility adopted December 3rd to go to the voters, to go to the electorate for a decision. You can fund these utility fees in a variety of ways. Not one of them had to supersede the voters. See, I believe there's power in public comment, but there's absolutely the best opportunity to put it to a vote. The reason you have representatives is that not everything needs to go to a vote. Now, you don't need to slow down the operations of city government to get a vote from the entire population each and every time. I get that. What I don't get is the individual hierarchical positioning that happens, that a few believe that they're more important, their voice is more influential, their voice is better educated than anyone else, better in any fashion than anyone else's vote. That, to me, is not right. How do you feel? This is the Talk Shop in Studio 255 at the Laramie Plains Civic Center, and we're back with Sound Adventures right here on 93.5 FM, KOCA, Laramie.